Hey guys, it's Junior. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking. I have another cool car that I want to share with you. As you can tell by the thumbnail, it's a Ford. And even cooler than being just a Ford, it's a Shelby. Check this thing out, guys. Let me show you exactly what we've got going on with this project. Ugh. Ooh, it's tough to get out. Look at those bolsters. Come with me and you'll be in a world of auto restoration. Check it out. 1965 Mustang GT350R tribute. What the heck is a 65 Mustang GT350R? I know the new GT350Rs are incredible cars. I really want one. But I've never seen a older variation of the R. So check this thing out. Very, very cool. As you can tell, she ain't stock, boys and girls. Painted bumpers, painted on stripes, window delete. So here's the lesson for today. GT350R tribute. Apparently they made 34 of these competition models, 2 prototype cars. Here's all the specs of what this particular one has on it. Pretty neat, a lot of nice parts in here. And they did a phenomenal job at actually executing the installation of everything. I mean, this car runs and drives perfect. But the customer purchased it from us and he wanted a series of upgrades. As you guys probably know by now, I'm well known for building the classic cars of pretty much anything you want to have in your car, I can make it happen. We put LSs and Hellcats in cars with zero issues at all at this point. We've done it so incredibly much. So this guy said, hey, you know, this car actually has, and let me show you the interior once again. So it's got these aftermarket seats with the big bolsters in it. It's got a roll cage, 6-point harnesses that are actually SFI spec harnesses. Very cool. It's got the Shelby style dash with the Stewart Warner gauges, the oil pressure and the tach. That's very nice. But you'll notice where the radio should go, there's actually a delete plate. Okay. Well, what was strange is I saw that there's provisions for speakers in the rear. As you can see, let me sneak you in there. Right there, we have some 6x9s in the side panels, but no radio. He thought there might have been a hidden Bluetooth radio somewhere in here, and it turns out they just ended up installing some speakers and not using them. So I told the guy, you know, no problem. I can install audio. What do you want to use? He said, you know, what is your preference, Junior? I like Alpine. And I'm not trying to start any debates or anything like that. I've used almost every one that you could use at this point. JL Audio makes some really good stuff too. But he goes, okay, let's do an Alpine audio system. But I want navigation, I want front and rear cameras, and I want it to sound really good at high levels. Don't need it to be bass heavy, but I need a full range. I want it to sound equivalent to a really good sounding Bose audio. He's a Chevrolet guy at heart, so all of his newer vehicles that he buys has the Bose audio, and they really are knocking out of the park these days for factory audio systems. So let me show you what we ended up deciding on here. In addition to the classic auto air kit that I'm going to install on this vehicle, I have a complete Alpine audio suite, touchscreen navigation, Type R fronts, Type S rears, 8-inch powered sub in the trunk, 4-channel amplifier, front and rear cameras with the mount. I like Stinger audio for all of my RCA cables and my actual amplifier installation kit. These are the kick panels where we will be installing the front Alpine Type R 6x5s or 6.5s. And I'll get to this in just a second. So let's show you under the hood. This is exactly how the car came to us. It was sold through us on consignment. Gentleman purchased it and said, hey, I want Junior's magical touches. Let's bring this thing to the next level. Couple of things that I noticed. Anytime you do an air conditioning kit, there's really two things that you need to pay attention to that they don't necessarily tell you. Number one, is the alternator and battery going to be able to support the additional load? And number two, is there enough airflow through the front? Because remember, you're going to be putting a condenser in front of your radiator, and you need to have air flowing through that condenser if you want cold air. Everyone wants ice cold air and they want it now. Okay, so in order to do that, you eliminate the mechanical fan like they have here, and they do an electric fan. Well, you will notice something missing here, probably the shroud. The reason that they didn't put a shroud here in between the fan and the radiator is because of the clearance. I can't even stick my finger in between there. And that's a problem. See, because all of this area is wasted area in the radiator unless you're doing a fast enough speed going down the road to actually naturally move air through it. This fan, when you combine it with a radiator shroud, it seals off the rest of this area and pulls all that air through. That's why it's crucial to have a radiator shroud in addition to your electric fan. And that's kind of what we have here, is the correct stainless steel shroud, or aluminum shroud for that single 16-inch fan and that radiator. So now that we've alleviated the flow concerns, the next comes the amperage concerns. Also, as I told you guys, I'm installing a bunch of electronics in here. Anytime that you'll do an additional load, you want to end up with one of these. This is a 140 amp alternator with the regulator that goes along with it. It actually puts out 90 amps at idle, and of course it's powder coated black, looks really nice. 90 amps at idle is more than enough to supply the air conditioning and the stereo system and all the vehicle electronics at idle, and that's where I like to rate everything. I don't look at it at 1500 RPM or 3000 RPM. I want the car to be self-sustaining at idle, so that way it's not depleting the battery as you're in stop and go traffic. Maybe I'll stop talking for a little bit and just show you guys this car some more, because I really like this thing, guys. Willwood brakes in the front. They're not cross drilled, and the reason for that being is they wanted to be able to turn the rotors, because this was actually a road race car. That's what they kind of set it up to do, is the nostalgic events here in Florida. Really nice paint job, side pipes. All right, guys, so we're about 80% through this build on the 65 Shelby GT350R. I just wanted to give you guys another update here. I'm probably going to make this the second part of the first video. Just the first video was to show you all the components. This is going to be after I've dug into it. As you can see here, we have the complete air conditioning system completely in. Everything under the hood is done. You can see we have the high output alternator in here. You know, the condenser is all hidden. Everything's good to go here. So I've really been digging into the audio system in the last 2 days. I bounce from car to car, but this is what I've got done so far. So let's start with the front. We are running, of course, the Alpine Type R 6.5-inch components. You can see that the kick panels here, after I've got everything mounted, we really only have about 1.5 inches of magnet sticking out. This wasn't the case originally. I actually had to get my heat gun and stretch all this ABS plastic on both of these out to bring the speakers out so that the back of the magnet didn't hit the inside of the kick panels in here, because I really don't have a lot of room. So the second part of the front components, of course, is the tweeters. In the tweeters, I have hidden, of course, the compressor would kick on. It hasn't been running all day. So the tweeters are hidden underneath here. I actually made a custom ABS mount that both of the tweeters sit flush in, and I was able to aim them. So I have correct imaging there. They're gonna bounce off of the windshield, and I think they'll both sound really good right there in that location. Moving on to the rear speakers, let's take a look at what I got going on back there. These are the rear panels, and the car already had speakers in here, but as you can see, it was a 6x9 cutout with this grille. So what I ended up doing was, again, we have components here. So we have a 5 1/4, or no, this is a 6 1/2, and then the separate tweeter, we just put in a 6x9 conversion plate. That way the final product, as you can see, you can just barely see the mid and then the tweeter over here. Again, I have the tweeter aimed towards the front, so that way we have correct imaging in the rear. Moving on to the rear of the car, this is how I'm going to set everything up. Whenever I do an audio install, I'm a stickler for clean installation. I don't want any wiring exposed. The wiring that you do see, I want it to be neatly ran and piped and so on and so forth. So what I've decided with this is, I had a real problem with where I wanted to mount this amplifier, because I didn't want you to be able to see it at all. It needed to be somewhat accessible, so that way you can actually adjust it if you needed to. It needed to be in a relative good location to the battery, to the center of the car, so I don't have speaker wire going all over the place. I was originally, on the inside of the car, going to mount it behind the rear panels on one of the sides, but what I actually ended up coming to the conclusion of, so that I can run all of my RCAs together, is I'm going to hide this 4-channel amplifier down here in this corner. And you can see how on the back I've mounted a bracket that I can have it down here like so, and then of course the subwoofer will share the same mounting, and it's going to sit about there, and I'm going to hide all these wires. So you'll have the subwoofer, the amplifier there. You won't see any of the wiring at all. Everything will be neatly ran and really clean, so that way my OCD stays happy. And you know, it'll perform really nice subwoofer bouncing off of one of the walls of the trunk like you want it. You don't want it facing towards the front like you might think. Let's check out the inside of the car. So we have speaker wire, we have the RCAs with the remote wire going to the front. Everything is just kind of laid out. You can see that this entire car was outfitted with just a ton of fat mat sound deadener. The entire vehicle was gone over with it, which is great. It'll take care of any rattling, or it does a little bit of thermal insulation as well, but mostly it's just sound insulation. We have the crossovers for the front speakers. I already have this one kind of laying there. I have wires for the front and rear camera. I have both of the interface cables that I need to hide up under the front here. I forgot I didn't even mention the cameras. So we do have rear camera in their Alpine Stealth mounted plate. It looks really good. Holds it securely and you can't really even tell it's there. And then this gentleman wanted the front mounted camera, which is here. Again, so he can get really close into his parking space and kind of know the proximity of the front of the car. All of this sound audio stuff is going to be connected to, of course, touchscreen navigation, DVD receiver in this center console. This is a custom fiberglass center console that we brought to our upholsterer, and he had all the stitching done. Prior to doing that though, I had to fit it into the car, make mounting brackets, do the cutouts for pretty much everything. It had 0 cutouts in it, so I had to make sure everything was right, dry fit it. I took this console in and out of the car probably a dozen times, but I got it fitted correctly. We had it wrapped. It looks fantastic in my opinion. I think it'll look really, and it's padded too. It's not just like covered in vinyl or whatever. This is actually a really nice material and it feels good. It's all about the sensations, you know? It's all about the feel. So once that bad boy gets put in there, we will continue with the wiring, laying everything out. I'm gonna take my time and hide everything. In addition to all this car audio stuff, the customer also wanted to add a modern driveline light foot conversion, so it's a hydraulic clutch conversion. It's all up underneath, so I really can't show you guys, but it's bang, it's like fantastic. We've already installed that kit in addition to a center force clutch, and literally, I'll show you guys, 2 fingers, you can push the clutch to the floor. I mean, before, this thing was, I mean, it almost took 2 feet, you know, unless you never skip leg day. But thank you guys so much for joining me on this version of the adventure. On my next video, I'll probably just do a completed project vid just to show you guys how everything came out, because at this point, you know, you've seen the lead up to it. So please like, subscribe if you like these videos, and stay tuned for the final product on this. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'll do a little bit of a listening test if I can find something that's not going to get me copyrighted by YouTube that I can play for you guys and give you kind of a feel for how the Alpine performs in this 65 Mustang GT350R. I just really wanted to show you guys this project, share it with my channel, because I do so much work around here. I'm constantly doing new stuff, and I don't want to bore you guys. The last thing I want to do is put something on my channel and it not be worthy content, you know. But ultimately, if I'm too picky about what I put up here, I won't put anything up. So this is a really cool car. I've never done a real Shelby car audio system, and this is the real deal. It's interesting that this was built as a race car. It was hardcore, you know, everything about it was kind of meant for the track, and then this gentleman is making it a road vehicle. It's all right though. Everyone likes AC. Everyone likes the audio system. I mean, it's not like I've added a ton of weight to it or stole a bunch of power. That stand-in compressor doesn't take very much to run. You know, we didn't defile the car. I feel like we made it better. Truly, all the components that we installed were top of the line. But the question is, should this have been just stayed as a track car to where you can't enjoy it daily, or like this guy, he's going to drive it on the road and actually get the sucker, get some mileage on it. So I don't know, I like it better this way, dulled down a little bit. If you want more power, obviously you could go with different heads, and you know, there's stuff you could do to the engine to bump it up a little bit. It might make it a little less streetable, bigger cam, you know, things like that. For a street car, this is, I think, the sweet spot. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.